morning, everyone. It is such a pleasure to be here tonight in front of this amazing audience and open up this incredible event. Thank you very much, Peter. So my story starts back in Eastern Europe, back in the days of a communist regime. I remember, because the country was facing great financial difficulties, the electricity system would get cut off during the nights, and we would use candles to lit up the room. So in the pitch dark of the city, using candles in the rooms, I used to play by building airplanes with my father. And that was the most incredible moment of the day for me. Because at the light of a candle, even the smallest plane, even the small model could become a giant jet. You could project into the walls anything you wanted to build. And I remember that with my father, we would go out on the balcony, and in the pitch dark of the city, without no electricity, we would use a telescope and look at the stars. And my father had this amazing collection of books about science, technology, and astronomy. And he used to read to me about all the stars and the way they were formed, the way universe were formed, the different properties of each star. I remember I had a favorite star, a red giant in the constellation of Orion. That was my favorite star because if you would bring that star in the middle of the solar system, my father was explaining to me, this star would take up to the orbit of Jupiter. So I was fascinated to know more about stars, to know more about the objectives and the objects that people could use to look at the stars, telescopes, how they were built. And this is a picture of me when I was about 3-4 years old. And as you can see, I wasn't really playing with dolls. These were my father's technical instruments. This is a tape recorder at that time, and it wasn't a museum, this was my house. And I was really fascinated about technology. I wanted to know how things work. My father used to explain to me that, Cristina, you have to find your passion in life. Find what you like to do most, and just go ahead and do it. And at that time, I didn't know what I want to do most. I had no clue what was my passion. I knew that I always wanted to know how things work. So my first harsh encounter with the reality of being a woman in technology came when I was decided which high school to attend. It was a difficult decision. At that time, I was very good at literature. I used to write stories, and I won a couple of country Olympic awards in literature. I had a natural talent. And obviously my professor were telling me, you have to go study literature. Now for me, even they had my best interest at heart, that was a very, very scary advice because it felt really boring. Why would someone go study something that they were the best at? I wanted to learn something new. I wanted to challenge myself and find out things that I wasn't the best at. So I didn't quite know what I wanted to study, and I ended up receiving for my birthday a present from my parents, a personal computer. And it was at that time when I decided that this is what I want to do in life. I want to study computer science. I used to spend hours in front of that computer playing video games and then thinking that I will build my own video games. So I told my parents, I want to study computer science. And they said, yeah, but you need to be good at math. You know, there's only one computer science class in the area where I was living, and they only accept 20 students, and you really need to know math. And I was not good at math. I really could not understand math. I had colleagues who would solve problems in a matter of minutes, and I was even almost getting to wrap my head around these problems. I couldn't understand them. So I went and I started studying. I bought books, I started reading them, and I started to know how to solve problems. It was very difficult at first. I didn't know how to solve them. It took time, but I started to understand. And a couple of days before the final exam, I went to take a test with a renowned professor. And when I walked into the room, he said, oh, you know, what are you doing here? It's the first time that I'm seeing you. Do you see all these boys that I'm teaching them? I'm teaching them, you know, every week in private teaching classes, and they understand math. Do you think that you will stand any chance to get into this only one computer science class? So I went back home and I was really disappointed, and I thought that obviously, you know, I will ruin my life. I will never have a career in computer science. I will never get to where I want to. But then in the day of the exam, I decided to, you know, just wake up, show up, and do the best I can with the things I knew at that point in time. And turns out I got into this class. I was the 7th admitted in the class. And you know, it was the moment when I learned it is really not important to be the best in life. It is important to always be better than you were the day before. And this is what guided my steps in the beginning. University was really a natural decision for me because I wanted to continue learning about technology, and I lived through the days of launching the Hubble satellite, launching the International Space Station into space. These big teams of people that were doing things so amazing, that were innovating, were creating something new, were enabling the rest of the world to see images of stars taken with the Hubble telescope. Yes, they went through challenges, but they managed to fix them. So I wanted to continue studying this, and I decided to go and study mobile and satellite communications. So I went into the university, and there were a lot of classes that I could select from. And I decided one of the classes for me was microelectronics. And this class had a number of, difficult subjects. And I entered into the room, and the professor again looks at me and says, "Are you sure that you want to study this? You know, this is a very hands-on class. We're working with transistors here. You know, we're building integrated circuits. Are you really sure that this is what you want to do? You know, maybe you should select something easier." And I said, "Yeah, but why don't you start teaching me what you know? And then we see I have the capacity to learn, and this is what I want to learn." And by that time, I saw the pattern. I always had to prove why I belong in the room. The first impression was always, you don't belong in the room. So I decided to continue with my passion. You know, this is a picture of me in a science museum in Munich investigating how, this submarine, German submarine, was built. This was something that always fascinated me. So during university, I decided to start my first job because I wanted to know how you apply things that you learn in reality. And I took a job with an internet service provider, the first one in Eastern Europe. It was a startup at that time. And of course, in my first day at the job, the manager presented me, "Hey boys, I got you a girl colleague." You know, everyone just looked up from their computer and said, "Wow, that's unheard of." But at that time, I didn't want to fight the pattern anymore. I didn't want to prove that I belonged in the room. I knew that after a while, everyone will understand that I belong in that room. So I just smiled and said, "Hey everyone," I waved, and I started to understand what I can do with that position, with that role that I had in that company, what I can achieve. I started focusing on my achievements, the achievements that I can have there. So after a while, I got contacted by someone from Oracle Corporation. I heard about Oracle Corporation, Silicon Valley, and it sounded so fascinating. And I went for this discussion, and I met a woman in tech in the interview. It was so fascinating for me. And she said, "We want to build a support center here in Eastern Europe. It will be the first one of its kind. And we heard about you. We believe that you can be our first hire here and help us build this center." And of course, I was sold. I said, "Yes, I'm in." And I started working for them. It was something new. And a lot of my friends were asking me, "But, aren't you scared? This is something completely new. Do you know how to do it?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm scared. Nothing is scary for me. It is something new. Everything in the world is new for new people that want to innovate, but this is not scary." So I started hiring staff. I started, looking at processes, setting up the center, training people after I had to learn myself all the technology that Oracle was offering at that time. So it didn't come without challenges, but for me, it was a real interesting time to live into. So I thought, every time that I have to do today something that my future self will benefit me, will thank me for. So this is why I decided to do this and start this center in Eastern Europe, which is now one of the biggest in Europe. After 3 years working for Oracle, it became clear to me that I kind of knew everything at that point in time. Nothing was exciting for me anymore. It felt that, if someone would call me in the middle of the night, I could answer any type of question immediately. And that wasn't really exciting. It was a bit boring. So I decided to take another role with Ericsson Telecom, and they were starting up an IP GPRS networking engineering team in Spain. And they said, "Look, this is going to be a very technical, hands-on role." And I said, "Yeah, that's me. I want to do that. Let me try it." So my team would be the team that would receive a lot of phone calls in the middle of the night when critical network problems were happening. And you knew that if you would receive a call in the middle of the night, no one before you, maybe 3 or 4 people before you, did not know how to solve the problem, and you probably don't know how to solve the problem, and you are in for a very, very long night. And again, I had to face this question of, but aren't you scared? Aren't you afraid? This is something new. Maybe you don't know how to do it. And I always believed that if you are scared, you're not going to be able to innovate. Innovation is never linked to failure, because innovation is always something about giving up something new, creating something new. So if you constantly challenge yourself, if you go out of your comfort zone, if you do something that your future self will thank you for, you can never fail. So, this is me. I was still, in my journey through all the museums in Europe, looking at the rover that people were going to send to Mars and the whole lunar module. And I was thinking, what am I going to do next? And one day in a conference in London, I met a very nice British gentleman that said, hey, Cristina, I got, I know you through a friend, and I heard about the things that you are doing in Oracle and Ericsson, and why don't you want to join McDonald's? And I said, but you guys are selling burgers. I am into technology. I want to build things. I want to know how things work. And he said, oh, no, it's not like that. What we're trying to do is we're trying to bring technology into all of the restaurants in Europe, new technology, and we don't even know very much how to do it. So would you like to help us? And I said, oh, if you put it like this, then it is very interesting for me. Because you see, for me, technology was not for the very few, for the very few rich people of the world. It was for the many. Technology would enable people to have a better standard of life. And what McDonald's was trying to do at that time, it was to bring into the store a whole new self-ordering mechanism with self-ordering devices, with wireless ordering devices, and roll it out across Europe. This would enable people to spend much less time when they were ordering their food. Now, if you go into a McDonald's store and you order it on a kiosk, remember me, okay? So I decided to join them. And during 3 years, working with McDonald's, building this global team of people from different countries, different nationalities, different religion views and gender and different races, I realized that the biggest things in life always seem impossible until they are done the first time. But the most important thing is to believe that you can do it, that your contribution can help humanity advance. And this team that I've built worked for a higher purpose. They wanted to innovate, they wanted to bring technology into all the restaurants, 8,000 restaurants in Europe. It was not without challenges, it was not without sleepless nights, but it was for a higher purpose. So the last pilot that I've done, it was in the very small island of Malta, which I fell in love with. An amazing island that had so many companies focused on technology, fintech, gaming, cryptocurrency nowadays. Malta is a very, very innovative island. So I decided to just relocate with my family there. After traveling all across Europe in every country from the Nordics up to even Morocco, at that time was part of McDonald's EMEA region, I said, I want to do something different. I want to relocate to an island. I want to live my life in peace, but I still want to be in technology. So I decided to join a fintech startup. Just a couple of people, and I said, yeah, here I can do pretty much everything. So I ended up doing a lot of things there, from managing the P&L to going to investor and raising funds to managing projects, maybe even ordering cups in the kitchen. I grew this business from a very, very low number of people to about 200. And then I learned that technology can bring a variety of different things to people. And at that point in time, we were innovating the world of payments. That company's mission was to bring on a new innovative payment system. And I felt really excited about living in Malta and about this company. It was really extremely interesting. And I told my father when I was meeting him, I found my passion, I found my purpose in life. It is to build teams that are focusing on bringing new technology into the world. You see, I don't think that I fail with innovation, regardless of what I do and in what area. Innovation means courage, and it means having the courage to try something new and reinvent yourself every single day. So, one of the last stories that I'm going to tell you tonight is that I've never, ever followed a job spec that someone wrote. Never. It is because I always believe that there is no perfect job. The perfect job doesn't exist, but you can create it. So you know, when I met the CEO of Gaming Innovation Group, GIG, which is an amazing person, we spent some hours talking, and he was looking for someone to build his platform business. And he asked me, Cristina, if you were to be given a superpower, which superpower would you choose? And you know, this question for me didn't really make a lot of sense. I said, why would I need to be given a superpower? Because I would just go and decide what superpower I want, and I would go and do it. I would go and learn it. And then I decided, to join GIG, because their mission was to innovate the gaming industry, make it fair and fun for everyone, and this was linked to my purpose as well. Using technology to enhance humanity's standard of living. Having fun is really part of this standard of living. So yes, one of the lessons I've learned is that the perfect job doesn't exist, but you can definitely create it. And my last slide, during my career, I know that you have to believe in yourself, because you are always one step away from a completely different life. So girls in tech that are here present, just go with your passion. Believe that if you are every day better than you were the day before, believe that you have the power and it's in you. Believing in yourself will make a difference to this world. Constantly do something that your future self will thank you for. And believe that innovation never fails. You will have the opportunity, on this pale blue dot that we are all living on, suspended in a sunbeam, to achieve anything you want. Thank you.